A beautiful day for a podcast, isn't it? It's springtime, and you are tuned into A Touch of Gay, episode 53 for April 4th, 2026. And I'm Daddy Sam. On our 53 episode, you might have noticed something a little bit different. Growing Older Gay's kitchen table talk becomes A Touch of Gay. There's also a Supreme Court ruling that we need to talk about. A new STI circulating in Europe and parts of the UK and Australia that we need to be on the lookout for. And of course, we have our leather news in addition to upcoming events. But first, let's get right to the heart of the matter and check in. A Touch of Gay. What is that? What is that? If you watch us on social media, if you're watching us on YouTube, or if you're listening on our podcast platforms, you might have noticed something a little different. And no, it's not that I'm starting to sport a little bit of a handlebar mustache. I'm beginning to curate that. We have come up with a little bit of an evolution of Growing Older Gay, and we have changed the name to A Touch of Gay, which just happens to rhyme with a touch of gray. So our leather-scented discussion of sexual health, spirituality, advocacy, and travels of a sober gay leather daddy haven't changed. But what has changed is the graphics. We've given it a little bit of a makeover and refined it a little bit and sort of brought it into the here and now, because when I started Growing Older Gay 2 years ago, I had a mission which is exactly the same as our statement that I just read, but it's evolved a little bit. In that 2 years, sitting here and having a podcast, I have sort of settled into a groove of what I have passion about, what I like to talk about, what I like to feature on our podcast. And in that way, I felt it was time to revisit our brand just a little bit and focus that and aim that a little bit more directly at our audience. So not only does it communicate better to everyone out there who might be perusing in the interweb, but really sort of put a point on what we're doing here. And so Growing Older Gay now is A Touch of Gay, and you'll find that everywhere out there in the internet, on our website, atouchofgay.com, our YouTube channel, A Touch of Gay Pod, and the Touch of Gay Pod is the handle on most of our social media. All of that has automatically changed. If you are already a subscriber, you may have not even noticed the difference, other than I have a new profile picture, our graphics, little bit noodled. I'm very excited about this because I'm a person that really likes to try to always be transparent and always try to be exactly what you see is what you get. And I just felt it was time to just sort of refocus our name and our branding so that it really reflects what we're doing here. And in that way, I'm going to get right to our daily inspiration, which is found on all of our social media handles. You can find that, of course, on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, and Blue Sky. We don't do the X. We still don't do the X. So don't even look. Our daily inspiration today is simply this. Tell someone that you love them today. Tell them you love them. This can be a friend. It can be a family member. It can be your partner. It can be someone you have a crush on, maybe a secret crush on, if you're really daring. I have found it very therapeutic for both myself as well as the people that I have around me to let them know once in a while when I see them, maybe in passing at a coffee shop or somewhere I see them regularly, or in the case with a family member or my husband, let them know that you love them by vocalizing that. I love you. I'm just letting you know that I love you. I care about you. That is something that can make someone's day. It can really boost their spirit. You never know when somebody's not having a good day. And you don't want to say it in a time when you just apologize for something. That's not the right time to do it. No, you bring it up as just a simple, hey, I love you. I just want you to know that you mean something to me. So that's it. Very simple, but sometimes we just need a reminder to let people know that, because it's very important, I think, not only for us to put that out there, but for people to hear it. Yeah. So on with business, we have a very important topic today. The Supreme Court this last week sided with conversion therapy. Yeah. According to the Advocate, the U.S. Supreme Court on Tuesday, on Transgender Day of Visibility of all days, struck down Colorado's ban on so-called conversion therapy for minors. The decision elevates abstract free speech doctrine over a growing body of medical evidence and leaves LGBTQ+ youth more exposed to a practice doctors have long described as harmful. The court ruled 8-1, which was a huge surprise to me, with a broad majority, including 2 liberal justices, joining the opinion, striking down the law, and Justice Ketanji Brown was the only dissenting voice. The court held that because conversion therapy often takes the form of talk therapy, Colorado's law amounts to a content-based restriction on speech. About free speech is how the court interpreted this case and how they ruled on it, which is one of the reasons why the liberal justices, 2 of them at least, stepped in and joined the majority. And the basic look at and the argument is that it barred therapists from encouraging a change in sexual orientation or gender identity, but allowing speech that affirms a patient's identity or transition. So they looked at it from the standpoint of free speech, where this law that banned conversion therapy was telling therapists they couldn't talk about this topic. They couldn't go down this line of conversation, but it allowed for another side of the argument. And so while I find that this is a ruling that is a negative ruling for our community, it does put youth in danger because often minors don't have the choice. Parents forcibly put their children into these types of therapy based on the parents' ideals and the parents' religious doctrine. The children don't often have a choice. And the younger they are, the more vulnerable they are to these things and the more damaging it can become, especially when you put it into the backdrop of maybe they're in a church community. There are youth groups they're a part of. Maybe their church congregation calls them up to the front and holds them up like a puppet and says, look at this person, look what they're doing. They think they're transgender and they're getting good, godly therapy to fix this. I've seen it when I was young and I was in church. People were brought up and held up as an example. And while they might have thought they were well-meaning in this process for the congregation, it was very harmful, damaging, and traumatic for that person to be held up as the sinner and to be put through that. And while I kind of got into the weeds on that, my point in bringing that up is that this conversion therapy that many religious parents put their children through is a part of a larger picture. That's the side of this that I find troubling. I also understand why 2 of the liberal justices went along with this, because free speech is free speech. If we want free speech for ourselves, to do the things we want to have podcasts like this, to be able to talk about the things we talk about here, we have to let the other side do it too. We have to. And so if we have a law that says only one side of the coin can be discussed, ultimately that's wrong. Now, what I will tell you is that they referred this back to lower courts to hash this out. There are other states out there that have laws like this. Those who are defending this law would tell you that this is about a medical practice, not about free speech. And that's really what made this decision go the way it did. If they were looking at it strictly as a medical practice, most doctors have condemned this. It's snake oil. It's just a bunch of hoochie coo. But the bottom line is, when you look at it through the lens of free speech, that's where this comes down. And so I'm split on this, if I'm honest. I'm disappointed for the community, but I get it. I get it on the free speech angle, because even though I disagree with other people out there in the world, they have a right to their speech, just as I do, just as we do. So just putting that out there, this is a big news story of the week among all the other stuff out there going on. But this is something that really needs to be looked at and watched for our community. Another thing that needs to be watched this week, news is making the rounds. A new drug-resistant form of Shigella is emerging among gay and bisexual men. An increase in cases of a more drug-resistant form of Shigella is showing up in the UK and Australia. Cases primarily are acute with men having sex with men. Shigella is a gut infection that can be passed on during sex directly or through unwashed hands. Symptoms including diarrhea, stomach cramps, and fever typically appear between 12 hours and 4 days. It can last up to 7 days and in most cases clears up on its own. Severe cases, however, can be treated with antibiotics. If you are diagnosed, avoid having sex until 7 days after your last symptoms. Avoid spas, swimming pools, jacuzzis, hot tubs, and sharing towels, as well as preparing food. So that's all the information that's off of the health websites out there about this. And I just want to put one thing out there about this. I saw some commentary online on some of the social media where this has been posted, where people are responding to this with the age-old, well, why are you singling out gay men? This isn't about gay men. Women get it too. Straight people get it too. Yes, that's true. That can happen. But look, this is a gut infection that comes out the end, and that's where you find it. And the reason this is something that's being pointed out to gay men or men who have sex with men or bisexual men is because that's where we find ourselves often. Our hands go there, our other parts go there, and I'm not going to list the parts, but you know where I'm going here, right? So because of that, we are more susceptible to this, which means, therefore, we ought to be watching out for this just a little more. If you know anyone that you're hanging out with and they're having some gut stuff going on, maybe they're having a little bit of a problem with irregularity, maybe they've got a little something going on, be mindful of that when you go down there. That's all I'm saying. Don't take it personally, folks. STIs are part of the game. And I always say, if you're going to play baseball, you may get grass stains on your knees. We're adults about this. And so this is just something to be watching out for. Luckily, this is a smaller one. It's no fun. Shigella is no fun at all. And again, you can take antibiotics for severe cases. So be on the lookout for that, even if you're straight. So on to leather news. We got some big leather news this week, a lot of leather news because there's a lot to talk about. First of all, Mr. LA Leather Contest just happened. Brian Hetler of Los Angeles is the new Mr. LA Leather 2026. Now, you might recognize him because he was also just sashed with Mr. LA Leather Bear earlier this year. So he is really out there being a rock star, and he is a handsome, burly bear, kind of a rugged-looking guy, someone I'd love to go camping with, if I'm honest. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see his pictures there. And so congratulations to Brian on that. Also, Mr. San Diego Leather just happened. And Mr. San Diego Leather 2026 is Sal Leon of San Diego. He is a handsome, young tattoo artist with a beautiful mohawk. And oh my heavens, I'd love to meet him in a coffee shop. I congratulate you, Sal. Welcome to the family, and I wish you good luck with all your endeavors with the new title. Now, we have a little bit of an update on a previous title that we talked about earlier in January, Mr. Eagle Leather, LA. Wyatt Heath was originally named the winner of that title. However, the Eagle and the contest has named Darren McCoy as Mr. Eagle LA Leather. Handsome guy, big burly bear. Again, somebody I'd love to go camping with. Now, I was unaware of this change that actually happened quite a bit earlier this year, shortly after Wyatt had been named Mr. Eagle LA. But Wyatt had posted on his Facebook page just in the last couple of weeks an explanation and a little bit of a personal statement about this. His title was actually taken away from him because after he won the title, it became known that he was a Republican. So the title was then given to Darren, which was well-deserved by Darren as well. He worked just as hard for that title as did Wyatt. But these things happen in the leather community occasionally, and politics does play a role in the leather community, and especially for title holders. I'm not going to beat up on Wyatt for being a Republican. I'm sure plenty of people are doing that. He has stepped back from social media. He has stepped back from a lot of stuff because he's gotten a lot of flack down there in Los Angeles around this. But what I will tell you is that a person that is running for a leather title is running for a title to represent the gay leather community. They are running to represent the community. And in most cases, that there comes with that service work and advocacy for the gay community. Most people believe that Republicans don't advocate for the gay community. They don't advocate for all of the various things that are important to our community. And in many cases, at least in our current political construct, they are toxically against everything that is good for the LGBTQ community. Not only in word, but in deed. We have seen that. We've talked about it. Anybody with a brain knows that. And so, yes, there are gay people out there who are Republicans. Most of them, however, have read the room, and they don't talk about that very often. They keep it to themselves, and they certainly don't run for a title where they're going to be out, I'm a Republican and I'm representing the gay community. Most people read the room and they understand that. And so what I would tell Wyatt is, honey, you need to learn to read the room. You need to, you, you should have known. Drama occurs all the time in the leather community. It's just part of the deal. It always has, it always will. And there actually hasn't been a lot about this. This sort of happened very quietly, and a lot of it didn't really come to light publicly until Wyatt made his post. In some ways, I commiserate with Wyatt in the respect that his title was taken away from him, a title he did win fair and square. However, he should have known. And I disagree, of course, with Republican and right-wing views, but that's up to him to have those views. What I will tell you is that my sensitivity around this is based on this simple fact. I used to be a Republican, and I've talked about that on the show before. I used to be a pretty right-leaning conservative, and I'm talking about decades ago when I was, in my view, cold-hearted, selfish, and oblivious to the world around me. I was wealthy, I was white, I had a big house on a hill, and if you didn't look like me, sound like me, believe like me, or live in the same neighborhood that I did, you were just wrong. That was my viewpoint. And I feel very fortunate and grateful that I've gone through a process in my life. I realized I was wrong about so many things in life. I was wrong about empathy. I was wrong about taking care of those less fortunate than us. I was wrong about how I looked at so many different people that weren't just like me. And that was my reasoning for coming around to a bit more of a compassionate viewpoint when I look at how I come down on politics and social issues. Really, a lot of it was just a spiritual change and realizing that I was wrong about so many things, that I was selfish and that I was cold-hearted. But that's my journey. I'm not projecting that onto Wyatt. I'm just telling you why it is that I'm a little sensitive to that in this situation. And I'm not beating him up for that because he's still young. He has time to change. And many people out there listening might be log cabin Republicans. And I don't have a lot of love for log cabin Republicans because I believe that you ought to really look at yourselves and try to figure out why it is that you have incongruent belief systems built into the same spirit. There's things there that you need to look at, I think. So there, I've been judgy myself today. All of this overshadows the fact that Darren McCoy is now Mr. Eagle LA Leather. He's extremely handsome. And all three of these guys, I'd love to go camping with them. Maybe all three of them in the same tent. Wouldn't that be fun? If you want to follow them on social media, I've had their handles on the screen. You can also look down in the show notes, both on YouTube and our podcast formats, to find them and follow them because they're hot. You should. And now it's time for an event. Leather is my thing. Bears are my thing. Duh. Have a look at me. Our event this week is something a little bit further away than where I normally talk about. Fire Island Bear Weekend, June 11th through the 15th. According to their website, Fire Island turns up the heat as the bears, cubs, chubs, admirers, and friends from all around the world descend on Pines and Cherry Grove for the most seductive, unapologetic, and unforgettable bear event of the summer. From sun-drenched afternoons on the beach to sweat-soaked dance floors after dark, Fire Island Bear Weekend is where desire meets community, and the vibe is as thick as the bodies. Expect poolside flirtation, moonlit walks, packed parties, intimate moments, and that unmistakable Fire Island electricity that keeps you coming back. You can get your passes online right now at their website, fireislandbearweekend.com. Costs a little bit of money, and of course, staying there costs a little bit of money. But if you're on the East Coast, or if you've never been, which I've never been to Fire Island, I've heard both good and bad. There's monsters, there's perfect gays, there's A-gays everywhere. But it's clear by the presence of events like this that there's also space for people like me. And so I just wanted to put this event out there because it looks like fun. Someday I'll get there. All these events usually happen right around IML, which is I go there on Memorial Day weekend every year, and it's a week-long thing that costs a lot of money. So anything that happens within 3 to 4 weeks around that usually doesn't get put on my calendar because time off from work, money spent, I'm done for a while when it comes to traveling and going to events. But this really looks like a good one. And that's our show for today, A Touch of Gay. A Touch of Gay. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that I do have a bit of a handlebar mustache going and just starting to get it going. And it's in that delicate phase where it's a mess. It's just big enough to start curling on the edges, but it's a mess everywhere else because you just have to let it grow. You have to stop doing the trimming that you would normally do on your mustache in those early weeks. And I'm wearing my Mr. S leather bar vest, my Berlin bar vest, and matching armbands because it's just a nice, comfortable look for the spring here in Arizona. Might go for a walk in the neighborhood, let the neighbors have a look. Yeah, so you can see our website. Now, everything out there, our social media, our website has been renamed. Our website, atouchofgay.com, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky, A Touch of Gay Pod. Podcast drops on major platforms every Sunday, everywhere you can find a podcast. Our YouTube version usually drops a day early on Saturday. So those watching us on YouTube, and you should, so you can see me, well, you usually get it a day early, sometimes even on Friday. Best of all, our show plays on the streaming radio station every Monday at 10, gayphx.com, Monday at 10 a.m., and that is, of course, Mountain Standard Time. Yeah, so have a look everywhere we are. Have a look at our new graphics. Have a look at our new color palette. Yeah, our new name, A Touch of Gay, rhymes with a touch of gray. So if you are watching us on YouTube, you can see our latest video right there. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel right there. And if you're on a podcast platform, please do subscribe and leave us a good review. Either way, stay tuned.